36, 37, 38, 39.
Good morning. I want to call to order the Board of Supervisors Special Budget Hearing for Tuesday, May 24th. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Carroll?
Here,
Where is here, Supervisor Carroll?
currently on the road in between Vegas and Salt Lake City. Thank you for asking.
And you're not
On my way to
driving.
the west.
You're not driving and texting, right?
No, thank you though. You're on speaker.
Thank you.
Supervisor Elias? Supervisor Miller?
Here.
Supervisor Valadez? Chair Bronson?
Here.
Let the record show Supervisor Carroll will participate telephonically and Supervisor Valadez is absent.
Please rise for the invocation to be offered by Father Earl Comtos, St. Demetrius Greek Orthodox Church, with the Pledge of Allegiance to follow, to be led by Supervisor Miller.
Christos anesti ek nikrontenaton tanar petisas, kitis demimes izoi charisamenos. O God, our God, you have adorned us with your image and given us free will. You taught wisdom to Solomon. Look down, O Maker and Creator, upon this council. Grant them wisdom and understanding, that they may learn your holy will. Warm their hearts in love for you and for their neighbors. Guide them on the way of truth and righteousness. Keep their hearts from all evil. Unite them in one mind and in one heart, and let mutual brotherly love abide in their midst. Bless them for the doing of good and for useful things. For you are the God, powerful in mercy and gracious in strength, and to you belongs all glory, honor, and worship. Amen.
Would any staff members like to take a dog sight unseen? Kind of a pig in a poke deal.
Seriously. Okay, then we have here listed call to the public, but if you would like to be heard when we adopt the budget, we can do that. That's item 11 and 12. Up to you guys. Well, let's just do call to the public then. All right, Christopher Cole, and again, 3 minutes, and please be civil.
My name is Christopher Cole, First Vice Chair, Pima County Libertarian Party. I got a picture of a Tommy gun, and I'm not afraid to use it. That's a reference to a certain tie tactic I confiscated shortly back. But what I'm going to talk about is the budget in general, not any specific item. Because I can make this complaint of probably about 80–90% rough guess of the Pima County budget. The principle of governance in America is supposed to be adhere to the rule of law. You should be required, as far as I'm concerned, to, at any item in your budget, point to a specific statute in the Arizona Revised Statutes, a specific clause in the Arizona Constitution or the federal Constitution, and say, this gives us the authority to do this. I don't think you can do it for probably, like I said, 80, 90% of what you
I'm sorry about that. I think
Well, he
that's
never
what that
listens
was.
anyway, at least according to popular belief. I'm not commenting on that. But every dollar that you spend hurts the economy. Probably, in most cases, more than whatever good it does. Because what you're doing is you're taking the money away from people who could spend that money the way they want, whether it's for medicine, for food, for new clothing, for a vacation, for businesses. They could be paying their workers more. They could be expanding their product line, the goods and services that they offer. They could be using it to innovate and provide new goods and services that will better the lives of people in Pima County. But you don't seem to care about that. You just care about, this is what we want to do and we're going to do it. And if the law doesn't let us do it, well, our authority is Lord North and George III. I got news for you. We kicked them out of our politics over 200 years ago. The rule of law. Justify everything in your budget by saying this statute, this clause in the Constitution gives us the authority to do that. Make the people believe that you actually believe in the rule of law. Thank you.
Jay Smith.
Mr. Carroll, Board of Supervisors, I'm Jay Smith. I'm a corrections officer at the jail. I've been there 26 years. I am here to ask you to support the sheriff's budget and the decompression package for the Sheriff's Department employees. There's a lot of talk about money, and that's what it is. It's money. But the decompression package is about experience. When I started working on this a year and a half ago, I asked corrections officers what did they want? A pay raise or decompression? All of them that I talked to said we need decompression. They want decompression. They want the people who have been there a few years to be making more than the ones right out of the academy, to be paid for experience. All of you are quite aware of how important experience is in a job and in a career. When a person calls 911 and a deputy shows up, they would prefer to have somebody with experience. And when they're a victim, they would like to know that we have experienced officers protecting them by keeping them in the jail. Over the years that I've been there, I have seen a change in the type of person that the Sheriff's Department deals with. These people that we deal with are, for a lack of a better term, more sophisticated. It takes experience as well as the training that we get in order to be able to handle and deal with these more experienced type of criminal. I just want to reiterate that this isn't necessarily about pay raises for everybody and breaking the budget. This is about getting people who are experienced to try to keep them from leaving to go to other positions, but also partially as a thank you for their 12, 15 years in the department and their dedication to Pima County. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to do that. Supervisor Carroll, have you joined us again?
Yes, I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Supervisor Carroll is with us now, so let's see, we have one more speaker. Deborah Palin?
Good morning, Chairman Bronson, members of the board, Madam Clerk, Mr. Huckleberry, and staff. My name is Deborah Pella. I represent the 450 members of the Pima County Probation Officers Association. I am here to ask your support for the supplemental budget. I won't go into all of the details. I've spoken with most of you, and I know you've met with both chief presiding judges. First of all, our East Side office. The Officers Association believes it's critical that you keep that office on the East Side. It is evidence-based practice in community corrections that probation offices in the area where the probationers live and work is a visible public safety presence that protects the community. The East Side office there's county offices there, the police department is there, and I can give you one recent example in the past 2 weeks how that office's presence helped. Within the past 2 weeks, a person who was on probation on the East Side came to his probation officer's office and confessed that he had just attempted to strangle his girlfriend. They were able to call the East Side police, who responded immediately, and he was arrested. Without that office there, that arrest would not happen. So we urge you, please, continue to fund that office. The second request for a beginning to help fix the broken compensation system we have is also on our agenda. We realize that this problem did not happen overnight and will not be solved overnight. However, we are willing to work with the board, with the court, to find an answer to this problem. You have previously the information about how out of step our salaries are with our two major competitor counties, Maricopa and Pinal. So we would urge you to please begin this process with us so we can keep, retain, and recruit the best quality officers in Pima County. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Pellin. That concludes our speakers. So let's now move on to item 6, tentative budget hearing, Board of Supervisors sitting as other boards, Flood Control District Board. What's the pleasure of the board? Mr. Huckleberry, any comments first on flood control? Nothing? Okay, and I might direct the board members to page 6 of the tentative budget adoption, the May 24th memo from Mr. Huckleberry. And just for purposes of explanation, the Regional Flood Control District budget this year is suggested by the county administrator is $17,652,430. And if we were to adopt that tentatively, that tax rate would be 0.3335. Mr. Huckleberry, I have a question. How does that compare to last year's tax rate?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, it's a 2-cent increase that is allocated to the capital program for major repair and restoration of flood conveyance capacity on the Santa Cruz River and the Rito River. Without that flood conveyance capacity reestablishment, it's likely that properties that had not been flooded in the past would be flooded should we have a regulatory event of 100-year flood on either of the water courses mentioned. I would also like to remind the board that in tentative budget adoption, and this applies to every one of the tentative budgets you're going to adopt, is that you're setting the ceilings. Setting the ceilings for expenditure and tax rate levies. There is nothing that would prevent the board from allocating funding after the tentative budget is adopted between funds, nor reducing the tax rates or the expenditure ceilings. That's up to the board, and those are set finally at final budget adoption, which will occur on June 21st. The tentative budget is simply setting the fundamental constraints of expenditure limitations and expenditure limits, as well as tax rates.
And we, on the Regional Flood Control District, it looks like we are up in terms, should we adopt that rate tentatively, the difference in the levy from last year would be just under $2 million.
Yes, Madam Chair, and another point of information, the Arizona legislature in this prior year adopted truth and taxation requirements for the secondary levies. We have always operated for probably the last 10 to 15 years under a truth and taxation requirement under the primary property tax levy. It's just this last year that the legislature established that for secondaries. They established a level that was lower than some of our expenditures in the previous years, and therefore, if you'll notice, with the library district, flood control district, and the primary property tax rate, we will be holding truth and taxation hearings on each of those secondary levies as well as the primary levy.
And that will be on June 21st.
That will be on June 21st.
Thank you. All right, any comments or questions from board members?
Madam
Yep.
Chair,
Supervisor.
I'm going to go ahead and move the tentative flood control district budget.
Second.
Well, and I was going to read the amount, but I appreciate the second to my motion, Supervisor Carroll. $17,652,430, effective tax rate of 0.3335.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call.
Supervisor Carroll.
Aye.
Supervisor Elias.
Aye.
Supervisor Miller.
No, Madam Chair, I'd just like to comment that I believe we should be actually cutting our expenditures instead of increasing them. Thank you.
Chair Bronson.
I believe we need to protect the people, which is why I voted aye. I would hate to see we lose some folks in a 100-year event. All right. Moving on to the Improvement District Board. These are hearings and review and adoption of the County Improvement District tentative budgets for fiscal year 2016-2017. These are hearings. Anybody want to address this? And Counselor, then I have a question for you. I think we've answered it, but just to make it a matter of record, in terms of adopting this budget, we should read into the record or not all the improvement districts and the FY 1670 property tax levy, or can we just say as presented in the in item 8 on our agenda today?
Madam Chair, the amounts are all stated in the agenda, so I think it would be legally acceptable for you to simply say as stated in the agenda.
Okay, thank you. What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair,
Supervisor.
I want to go ahead and move the Improvement District Board budget for 2016-2017 as printed in our agenda for today's meeting.
And you want to close the
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and that motion includes closing the hearing, correct?
I'm sorry, yes, that's correct. It includes closing the hearing.
Thank you.
my
And
mistake.
did we close the hearing on flood control?
I don't believe I did.
Can we go back and, let's take a roll call on this one, and then we'll come back to flood control.
Supervisor Carroll.
Aye.
Supervisor Elias.
Aye.
Supervisor Miller.
Aye.
Chair Bronson.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Back to flood control. I think we need to revisit that and close the hearing. Is that correct?
I move to close the public hearing on the flood control budget.
And adopt as presented previously.
And adopted as presented previously.
I'll
Yes.
second. Roll call.
Supervisor Carroll.
Aye.
Supervisor Elias.
Aye.
Supervisor Miller.
No.
Chair Bronson.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to Library District Board. This is a hearing for the review and adoption of the Library District tentative budget for fiscal year 2016-2017. Question again to you, Mr. Huckleberry. With the Library District, it looks like the levy is up by a little over $1 million. And so the tax rate has risen by how much?
Chair, the tax rate for the district is the same rate that it was last year.
This is just a difference in assessed valuation.
The growth in assessed value, which is about 2%, 1%, 1.5% is construction, 0.5% is appreciation, and the increase in the levy represents that increase in the tax base. In addition, you'll note that given the levy amount, we're still about $200,000 over what the legislature established as their beginning base for the Truth in Taxation Notice, so therefore we'll be publishing the Truth in Taxation Notice on the Library District as well for a hearing on the 21st.
Thank you. Any questions from the board members? If not, what's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Elias.
I move that we close public hearing and approve the County Free Library District budget for 2016-2017, the amount of $42,166,526 for an effective tax rate of 0.5153.
I'll second. Roll call.
Supervisor Carroll. Supervisor Sullivan.
I think we lost him.
Supervisor Carroll.
Aye.
Supervisor Elias.
Aye.
Supervisor Miller.
I'm again, no, with the valuations rising and the huge increase in the library district last year, I believe we should be cutting the rate to keep the expenditures, at least keep them at the level they were last year.
Chair Bronson.
Aye. Were we to cut the rate, we would cut some libraries. And I can't, I don't think that's a good idea.
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
The vote's over, sir, ma'am.
I'd like to make a comment after
No,
you just made a
no,
comment.
that we've taken the
Okay,
vote.
fine.
Moving on to Stadium District Board, this is a hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address us on this item? What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Elias.
I move to close public hearing and approve the Stadium District Board budget for 2016-2017 in the amount of $5,398,439.
I'll second.
Second.
We have a second from Supervisor Carroll. Any comments? Roll call.
Supervisor Carroll.
Aye.
Supervisor Elias.
Aye.
Supervisor Miller.
Again, no, because we should be holding our expenditures steady, and we would not have a need to increase the expenditures this year, so I am voting no.
Chair Bronson.
Moving on to Board of Supervisors, finally sitting as a Board of Supervisors. This is a hearing for the review and adoption of the county tentative budget for fiscal year 2016-2017. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address us on this item at this time? What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Elias.
a couple comments I wanted to make before making a motion on the item, if it's okay.
Proceed.
Throughout all our budget hearings, the overwhelming issue that we heard from people was that of compensation. And so we've heard those voices, and we are going to work at making sure that we have a package that includes that to some degree in this budget. But I think this is a time when we need to be careful about how we spend our money, and it's important to be prudent, but compensation is a big issue for all our employees We've especially heard from our public safety employees. I also think that in Mr. Huckleberry's memo regarding the tentative budget, he talks about several issues that I think are important as well, and I think he spells out the situation pretty well. Just wanted to make a comment that I feel like it's important to continue the work at the Adult Probation Office on the east side of town. I think that's critical to all of us. It's not a ton of money, but it is very important to those probationers and especially important to our probation employees. And so I think that's critical. I also agree with increasing job path funding by $75,000 more or less. They are producing well-paying jobs for people, and they've become a valued community partner. And the economic studies that we've seen shown that they've increased their value over time. So I think that's critical for us as well. Still figuring out what's going to happen with the state. We understand we're going to get some kind of response back from court cases that are going on right now, and that'll dictate some of the choices that we make between the passage of our tentative budget and the passage of our final budget in June. So stay tuned for that. I think that's all critical to us and what we're going to be able to help people as deeply as we can. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move the tentative budget for Pima County for the year 2016-2017 and close public hearing and move the budget in the amount of $1,232,105,266 for an effective tax rate of 6.0395.
Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. I think it's unfortunate we don't have a full court today, that Supervisor Valadez hasn't joined us. As I look at the budget, you know, we've got total major budget cost increases amounting to about $67.5 million. About $18 million as a result of state budget cost shifts. We've got some increases in employee benefits in the amount of $4 million plus. We are increasing capital project costs about $23 million. Now, much of this is not necessarily in our control. It's dictated by events that we have no control over. As Supervisor Elias, I think, is correct in his assessment. Clearly, we've got real issues today with employee compensation. Things have, since 2008, we've barely been able to compensate. We have given some raises over the last couple of years, but mostly it's been flat. I'm concerned, and I think Supervisor Elias shares that concern, that this is especially difficult for those employees who are making $12 or $12 an hour. It's employees at the lower end. I would ask the county administrator if we have about a little over 7,000 employees, and of those 7,000 employees, how many are making below the median wage? Do we know? Do we have any idea how many of our employees are making below the median wage for our Tucson region? If you don't know, you don't know, but we can get that information.
Madam Chair, we have a complete distribution of the annual salaries base compensation for all county employees. And I believe the number is probably about 3,000 make $50,000 or less. And the median wage is probably in this region 36 or 37.
In 2014, I think it was 42 something.
We can find that out. I can't I won't speculate what the number is.
Clearly, we've got some issues, but as we look at our constituents across the county, none of them, they're pretty much, their wages have been flat. They've seen increased costs, whether it's consumer costs or increases in their mortgage costs. So I don't know how we get to an equitable situation here where we're not going to be able to deal with the compression issues in any substantive way in the near future, just based on some of the restrictions coming at us from the state, both in terms of our ability to make decisions locally, as well as the state cost shifts. At the same time, I don't think we're going to prosper economically if we continue to cut our way to the bottom. That hasn't worked for any jurisdictions or entities that have tried that. We need to grow our economy. I don't have any particular answers, but I think it's clear that we need to put the public back in public policy. I am hesitant to support the budget as presented. I do understand that the 1.2 billion approximately overall is a frugal budget. It's, I think, one that was well researched, but at the same time, you know, we're struggling with constituents who've seen stagnation of wages, loss of jobs. I mean, just in my district with Freeport-McMoran, miners, 400 plus miners lost their jobs recently, and we have not begun any kind of significant economic recovery. So I, again, am struggling with this and hoping we can in some way hold the tax rate steady and still do what we should be doing in terms of bringing the needed services to constituents. So I don't know, Supervisor Elias, do you have any thoughts?
Well, my main thought is I understand your concerns, Supervisor, and I share many of those concerns. Setting the ceiling in a position where we have some choices to make in the next few weeks, I think puts us in the position to be able to look at the necessary level of austerity that we need to exercise related to this year's budget. If we cut the legs out of that at this point by approving something below that, we'll have fewer choices to make and bind ourselves into a more difficult situation. If we see fit to approve an amount in final budget that's less than what we approved today as tentative, I think that's a perfectly reasonable position to take at that time. But a few more curtains will have been unveiled at that point, and we might have a better idea about what choices we have available to us.
So this is where Act 1. Supervisor Carroll, any comments?
Madam Chair?
Excuse me, I recognize Supervisor Carroll.
I'll pass and yield to the supervisor from District 1, ma'am.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Miller.
I'd like to make a few comments about this budget. One of the things I notice is county administrative overhead has increased from $12.7 million in fiscal year 11 to $22.2 million for this fiscal year, with more than a 74% increase in county administrative overhead. I asked for an explanation. All I got was the basis for how they allocate. I didn't get an explanation as to what is driving this. In 2014-15, the county received $78.1 million from the various distributions of HERF and VLT from the state. As a matter of fact, Pima County has received $688.2 million over the last 9 years, yet taxpayers are told there's no money to fix the roads. We need bonds, we need a gas tax. This lack of prioritization and focus on core services, which is why taxpayers no longer trust us. Count has actually increased for budgeting purposes, up 103 more employees this year. The more employees we have, the less money we're going to have for raises. This happens every year. And from fiscal year 2007, the head count was 6,579.3 employees. To fiscal year 17, the head count proposed is 7,164 employees. These numbers have removed the hospital head count for an apples-to-apples comparison. We have heard the sheriff department regarding step increases. We've heard the judges talk about the East Side Probation Office and also the inequities with their employee raises, and many other departments regarding raises. The deputies haven't had a step increase in 8 years, yet we continue to ignore taking care of our employees. We continue to ignore our roads that are a disaster. And we're increasing these property taxes again with this budget, expanding headcount again, which will further exacerbate the problem and inability to be able to give raises. And these ever-increasing property taxes year after year are the root cause for our inability to attract business here in Pima County. That's why we're stuck in a no-growth community. The other jurisdictions in Arizona have recovered. Pima County has not. It isn't hard to figure out what the root cause is. And until we get disciplined and focus on our core services, such as getting serious about roads, cutting taxes, we will continue to suffer the same situation: no growth, no expansion of the tax base. And I can't support this budget as it's presented.
Thank you. I would remind you that indeed we are growing the tax base. We've seen valuations rise this year. And in fact, we are attracting business. We just got a direct flight to New York, and it's not a red-eye flight. We have Caterpillar is locating its regional headquarters here. For an anti-business climate, I find that very unusual.
Madam
Why would
Chair,
they do
that
that?
wasn't without
Excuse me,
50
I am
million.
not finished speaking, Supervisor Miller. I did
ahead.
not interrupt you.
Go ahead. I'd like to speak after.
I think Supervisor Elias had asked to speak, and then I'll recognize you. But the fact is, we have spent our HERF dollars wisely. I do not know how we could have spent them differently and fixed more potholes. We have a limited pile of money with which to work. What you offer is not a solution. It is simply rhetoric, and it provides no reasonable solution to the challenges we face. And we are not the only ones facing these challenges. And if we look at our debt service, our per capita debt is lower than the town of Marana per capita debt per individual. And ours were voter approved or federally mandated. I do not believe in Marana that they took any of that to the voters. So I think that we are in a healthy position. Certainly we have, given our bond ratings, our bond agencies think we are doing a pretty good job of being fiscally responsible. So I think your rhetoric just flies in the face of reality, and I, for one, am not happy that you continue to try to damage the brand when, in fact, we have many items that speak to good news. And in terms of employee compensation, if you're going to cut taxes, cut expenditures, please explain to me how you are going to then find the monies to provide the compensation you say you want to. Again, I think your rhetoric doesn't match the reality. And Supervisor Elias, I know you asked to be recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, the Supervisor Miller's comments again lead us down that pathway of creating an environment where we're trying to make improvements to our economy by cutting our government down to nothing and cutting its services down to nothing. I'm afraid that's not a very satisfactory solution for the people who live in District 5. These are folks who have needs, who recognize that county government provides an important level of services to them. the facts that Supervisor Bronson just laid out for us in terms of debt, in terms of the growth that we do have happening here, in terms of economic development that we've had happening here, tend to show us that we're probably holding our own this year. That is not a great cause for celebration. But I, for one, would rather leave us some options so that we can make decisions once we find out a little bit more about the court cases that remain in front of us, once we find out a little bit more about how the public is responding to the questions that we're trying to answer here today. I think that's the more prudent, thoughtful, intelligent way to go about this particular budget year. But I think that's sufficient at this point. I'd be willing to comment some more after hearing some more discussion.
Supervisor Miller.
Madam Chair, the first thing I would have done to be able to cut costs is I wouldn't have funded the spaceport. That's $20 million. I wouldn't have funded the land that was purchased the first day of the fiscal year in 2014, $16 million. And
Oh, the voter-approved bonds, is that the land? I just a point of
I'm
clarification.
talking about the soccer dirt. And also the to attract business here now, we're having to invest tremendous amounts of money, $53 million, as a matter of fact, to get the Caterpillar jobs here. And that was through the Rio Nuevo tax district. I don't think they would have moved here without that incentive. And we're having to offer incentives for the direct flight to come from New York. There was an incentive offered there. This is why we're in that position, because we have not created the environment to attract business here, and it's our primary property tax rate and all the other taxes that are preventing businesses from relocating to Pima County. Thank you.
Actually, we are the only, as your jurisdiction of the 15 counties in Arizona and the I don't even remember now how many cities and towns, we're the only entity that does not have a sales tax. If we diversified our revenue, which I have said since the first day I was elected we needed to do, and not just rely for general fund dollars on property tax, we might be able to do a few more things had we had a sales tax. You know, I continue to advocate for a sales tax, but again, I think we need to put the public back in public policy, and we need to ask voters, is that something that we can do, and in doing so lower the property tax. But the reality is, in today's global economic environment, incentives are the way you attract and retain business. Every direct flight, whether you take Albuquerque, San Diego, some of our other sister cities have had to offer the same kind of incentives. So I would just reply to you that because the incentives are a way of doing business now. It's these public-private partnerships that let us grow the economy, and that paradigm is not going to change. And every successful community has done the same, whether it's Huntsville in attracting the Raytheon jobs of several years ago, or whether it's, what was it, Nevada attracting, Tesla. That incentives are a way of doing business now, and we need to grow up and face that fact if we're going to stay economically competitive in this, again, in this global environment. Supervisor Elias, Supervisor Carroll, do you have any comments?
Madam Chair, I believe it's time to move on and call for a vote. I'd like to ask the parliamentarian, in case there is a tie on this vote, is this pressed? Is this get continued? Or is the tie going to move the tentative budget? My first question. And my second question is, when Friday comes, I'm still available telephonically, of course, but I'm anxious to see what we are going to be resolving. If the parliamentarian would like to let us know if this is a 2-2 vote, what happens next?
Madam Chair, was the question,
Well,
what
the
would be
question
result?
is, if this ends up in a tie today, whatever the motion is on the floor, what happens?
Under the board's rules, Madam Chair, the item would be continued to the next regularly scheduled meeting of the board.
And in that case, and let me ask Mr. Huckleberry procedurally, or Mr. Burke, don't we have to adopt a budget today in order to meet the time guidelines?
Members of the board, the all depends upon the advertising timeframes, and the question is whether or not, if this were to result in a tie and continue to the first meeting in June, which is the 7th, does that give us sufficient advertising time to post the notices with the Arizona Daily Star, and hence it would probably push final budget adoption back to the first meeting in July.
Yes. Mr. Burke, you're concurring?
Madam Chair, yes, that's a good summary.
Okay.
Madam Chair, thank you. That answers my question.
Okay,
I will yield the floor.
okay, thank you. Supervisor Elias?
I was just going to comment in terms of all that economic development stuff, and it strikes me that I don't know that people like incentive packages so well, but we wouldn't have Raytheon if we wouldn't have given them a lifetime incentive package that every voter still pays for every single year. And I don't think anyone would argue that Raytheon has done well and helped to create a good business environment here in Tucson. So it's somewhat naive to turn a blind eye to it all and say, well, we don't really need to do all of that. Then as you start to look at some of the packages that are out here now, they've been cooperative packages put together by the state, by local governments
That's
like
right.
Pima County and the city of Tucson, that shows cooperation rather than sitting in a corner and complaining about everybody else in the world being wrong.
Well, and the reality is with Worldview, we're actually, if it's an incentive package, it's an incentive package in our favor because we're making money. Okay, there is no motion on the table. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'm still thinking that we should pass the budget as presented here today so that we have the availability and the option at final budget to approve an amount lower than that. To take a look at what's going to happen with the court cases that are still out there, to take a look at what public reaction is going to be, to take a look at what we can best do to address the compensation issues that are out there. We may not be able to completely take care of everybody's needs in terms of compensation, but we can make a dent and we can towards our employees who frankly have paid the price of this recession since 2008. And we've said it every year since then, that we've used the budget as a tool to have our employees help us. And they've been loyal, for the most part, in many ways. I think there's a point where we have to stop that and we have to be real. So I'd make the same motion again to approve the county budget, close public hearing, in the amount of $1,232,105,266 with an effective tax rate of 6.0395.
I will second. Again, I'm not comfortable with this, but I think your reasoning is valid. This gives us time to see if we can't bring that amount down, deal with the compensation, employee compensation, compression issues. And I don't think we serve any purpose by delaying adoption of a tentative, since it's really what counts as adoption of the final. So I will
Absolutely.
reluctantly second your motion and support it. And let's do roll call. Because I just
Supervisor.
think it's time to move on. We can't keep kicking the can down the road. we, at some point have got to move forward. I think in this instance, although I'm not comfortable with it, I certainly will support it so we can continue the dialogue. Roll call.
Supervisor Carroll.
No.
Supervisor Elias.
Aye.
Supervisor Miller.
No.
Chair Bronson.
Aye. We are, I guess, going to continue this to June 7th? Okay.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Carroll.
Madam Chair, I would see this as a chance to lower the budget overall by lowering the tentative. There is obviously your majority has a member missing. That's unfortunate for the ability to push the current number as the tentative budget.
It is.
Yes, I believe it's unfortunate for the public as well. But right now, if there's a substitute motion to lower it, that would be something to consider as well, I would imagine. This doesn't have to be delayed for the first meeting in July. It could possibly be decided on now if it were a lower number. If anyone has a substitute, I think it's an opportunity. Yet, as well, I've said earlier, I would be willing to get back on the phone on Friday if it helps push the regular schedule of your tentative. But I'm not comfortable voting today for the tentative as it's presented. Just as explained, not for all the same reasons. Of course, I support economic development incentives, and I'm supporting Caterpillar. I'm not one that is going to say that those incentives or the Raytheon incentives or any others were ill spent. But I do want to say that I think if we could take a second look now that this is an opportunity, I'd be willing to entertain any substitute motions.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor.
We haven't heard any plans for this. I think it'd be a really huge mistake to go willy-nilly and just pull a number out of the air and say that that's what we're going to do to the county budget. I just think that's entering to the theater of the absurd.
Well, maybe what we can do in lieu of that is to ask the county staff, county administrator to provide some alternatives to the presented budget for us to discuss at the June 7th meeting. Supervisor Carroll, I concur with Supervisor Elias. I don't know if I'm just not going to pull a number out of the hat to present today without having a little bit more information and a little more drill down into some of the areas. With that, unless you're willing, Supervisor Carroll, to make a motion, I think that we will revisit this issue on June 7th.
Well, my substitute motion would be to delay this vote till just this Friday when we can have a full board once again look at it. If there's an alternate, I could prepare. I've been on the board long enough to know that tentative budget is usually a routine and easy vote to have. So I've said it's unfortunate you're missing a member of your quorum on the Democratic caucus, and I was going to use it just as a by decorum rules to say I'll wait until Friday until you regroup unless someone has a substitute motion and they want to push it through. I am not prepared to make that except to say that we should try to be fair to each other's caucus. Obviously, the Republicans don't agree that this is the right budget for tentative sake, and that's what I'm trying to express to you. I'd be willing to come back on the phone on Friday and not push any delay of the future budget hearings or the advertisement for the final budget.
Well, I think at this point, Supervisor Carroll, we're not sure why Supervisor Valadez is not at today's meeting, and so should we call something on? Well, today is Tuesday. Probably, I do not see Friday as something doable. So I think we're going to just either have another special meeting, and I don't know procedurally, again, staff, in terms of, well, let me ask the clerk, what kind of advertising would be required?
Madam Chair, members of the board, there's nothing magic about adopting the budget before July the 1st. And so what I would suggest is obviously let this carry over to the first meeting in June, and we'll know a lot more about the court case and other issues. And we will then calculate the new adoption date based on the required advertising, because we have to publish the notices of truth and taxation hearings and the final budget hearings. And it will either be the first meeting in July, or we'll go to the date that is required based on the advertising.
Okay. Did you hear all of that, Supervisor Carroll?
Yes, I'm satisfied with the explanation from
Okay.
County Administrator.
And I think that's some of the questions that were asked today and some of the recommended cuts, if we could get a review of those and the result and the net effect. Okay, so then I guess we have one more. Supervisor.
I'd go ahead and move that we close the public hearing and approve the debt service tentative budget for fiscal year 2016-2017 in the amount of $115,455,401 for an effective tax rate of 0.7.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Supervisor Carroll?
No.
Supervisor Elias?
Would-
Aye.
Supervisor Miller?
Yes.
Chair Brunson?
Aye. Motion carries.
Madam Chair,
Now we move to item 13, the canvas.
I'll go ahead and move item 13.
That's the canvas for the special election of May 17th. I'll second. Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. That concludes today's special meeting. Our next meeting is June 7th on Tuesday. If there are no objections, this meeting stands adjourned, and we will see you on June 7th.